for the final vlog in my Dresden Files reread series. New here, hi, my name is Victoria. Welcome back to the channel. We have been doing a reread of the Dresden Files series for the last like 2 months in preparation for me going to Dragon Con. My goal was to read all 17 of the Dresden Files books before August 29th. I almost made it. I actually ended up reading the 17th book, Battleground, while I was at Dragon Con and finished it on the last day of Dragon Con, and also met Jim Butcher and got a picture with him that last day as well. So it was actually a really nice end to this challenge. In this particular vlog, I am reviewing the last 4 in the series. So the series is still ongoing, so these are just the last 4 of the books that are currently out. Jim Butcher is actually working on the 18th book right now, so hopefully I'll come back with another spoiler vlog in the near future. Which reminds me, this is a spoiler-filled vlog. If you have not made it to this part in the series of the Dresden Files, I ask you to stop, go back into the Dresden Files playlist, and you can watch some of my other videos and let me know what you think. But for this one, we're reading Cold Days, Skin Game, Peace Talks, and Battleground. And just another warning, I get pretty emotional at the end of this vlog when it comes to Battleground, because there's a pivotal moment that made me feel a certain type of way. So if you don't feel like seeing me be in my sad girl era, you can skip that one. But anyway, I had such an amazing time rereading this series, a series that I started reading over 16 years ago. And now I am here and ready for the next one, and just excited that I got to bring you along with this little rewind into the past. So to prevent me from rambling anymore, let's go ahead and kick it back to past Victoria and get started with Cold Days. Today is August 16th. And let's go ahead and have a chit chat about Cold Days. So Cold Days picks up after Ghost Story, and it starts off with Harry going through a physical therapy journey after being almost dead throughout the entirety of Ghost Story. So about, he was gone for like 6 months, so being in kind of like a comatose state for 6 months. I am actually already over a third through this book. I read some of it on the plane, and I read some of it while I've been here at night. Also, want to just point out that I've got this super cute little bookmark based on Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies, and I thought it was perfect because it's like kind of wintry, so it really goes with the vibes. But what do I think so far? Well, I've thought the montage of Harry going through his physical therapy and Mab like trying to find a way to kill him every single day for 77 days was a fun little way to introduce us to Harry's new-ish normal. I think it's very interesting that, I kind of find a new word for interesting. I am intrigued by the concept that Mab has asked Harry to kill Maeve. We still don't know why that is. And then of course, I am really loving Harry connecting with Molly and Thomas first, probably because they're the 2 people who would be most willing to like just jump right back into things. I think some other people are going to have more questions that Harry's just not ready to answer and doesn't want to put anybody else into the position of being hurt. I think the moment that Harry and Thomas embraced and kind of had a talk about Harry not talking to Thomas was a really great scene. I really love the parallels that Butcher made with Thomas's monster, his, internal demon, his succubus inside and Harry's situation, and basically feeling like it's kind of an affront to who Thomas is that Harry didn't A, trust Thomas to be able to understand it, and B, would rather end his life than end up like Thomas. So I thought that was a really great parallel and point to make. I'm curious about Demon Reach. I don't really remember much about this storyline, even though I did read this book a while ago. I don't remember much. I know it is a prison for big bads. So I'm curious to see how Harry is going to resolve all these situations. And I am curious to see what Molly says about the parasite in his head and how Harry is going to get out of his subservience to Mab. And that's pretty much the only things I really was thinking about in this first half here. I am interested to see how Harry and Murphy's introduction to one another is going to be. I'm a little nervous because I feel like we're going to be taking like 80 steps backwards in their whole relationship, which is sad. Also, I am very excited about Bob meeting Demon Reach. I thought that was really fun. I like how Bob made like the movie of what Demon Reach was trying to convey to Harry and then had to dumb it down and dumb it down some more. So I thought that whole interaction was super fun. But now we have also introduced another element, because Harry can never have one problem. He has to have 80 whenever anything's going on. And we have Fix basically telling him he needs to get out of Chicago by noon. So that's where we're at. Thought I would check in. I will check in when I've gotten a little further. But let's have a chat. So I have finished Cold Days. I have. And it was a wild ride, if that is to say anything. And I have notes, so let me go ahead and flip to those notes for you, my friends. All right, so let's see. I think the last we checked in, I was like maybe 40% of the way through, but we are done. And I just barely started Skin Game. I really haven't had a chance to read it to completion, but your girl has some notes here. So, Cold Days. I gave it 5 stars, and I have quite a few thoughts. So, a first thought is when Harry was getting the lowdown on the rival, the nemesis, the buggy bug parasites that are apparently infecting people and have been causing the Black Council of sorts to be happening, my brain hurt a little bit trying to understand who the parasites are necessarily working for. It seems they're working for the outsiders, but that is still not clear. And Harry ends up hearing about this from Maeve and Lily. And basically Lily's like, oh, Mab has one of these parasites, and that's why she's been acting so weird these past like 5 to 7 years. So it was a lot to consider, but we had a lot to catch up on. So obviously in Ghost Story, we reconnected with our friends in Chicago with Harry, and now we are coming in another 3 to 4 months after Harry finds out that he is not in fact dead and becomes the Winter Knight. And so he finds all of this out about what's going on after Mab asks him to kill Maeve. And so there's like quite a few things going on in this story. And I will say I really enjoyed Harry using different people to try to get an answer on whether he should side with Maeve or side with Mab. Talking to Titania and her still being really upset about him killing Aurora, and then eventually him reaching out to Mother Winter, which I love every time Harry interacts with Mother Winter and Mother Summer, because they really give the fairy tale vibes. Like, I just feel like the cottage and their kind of what they're cooking up in that cottage just really fits what you want from a fairy tale. So I always enjoy when Harry is there. So the fact that Mother Winter was kind of testing him to see if he was the Winter Knight, and then we get in this big reveal on the purpose of winter and why winter is so harsh compared to summer. And basically we find out through Mother Summer, she takes him to the outer edges of winter, and we go to the gates, essentially, where the outsiders are trying to break through, and we see there's just basically an ongoing war, and we find out that the gatekeeper, this is the gate of which he keeps. So Rashid shows up, and he's really been such an outlier. Like, we don't know where he stands, and we don't know what his purposes are, but clearly he has an intense focus on making sure that these outsiders do not enter our realm. And basically, from what we're to understand, is that winter is that point of where these outsiders can come in. So it's very important that we have someone who is strong there to be able to continue this fight. And so from this standpoint, we're getting the idea of like what we're trying to instill, the idea of what would this be like if Mab wasn't there. Like, yes, is Mab vindictive? Is she nasty? Does she play some shady games? For sure. But is Maeve able to take over this area and protect both Fairy, the Never Never, and the human realm from these outsiders? And this definitely gives Harry pause, which like really had me thinking about Butcher's long game here, because I think it's a really a credit to him as an author that we've been playing this long game with planting seeds that Mab may be succumbing to madness for some time. Like, we started off at, I think it was like maybe Death Mask, where we started to get these inklings, which is book 5, where we started to get these inklings that maybe Mab is crazy or something is wrong. And it's not until this book in particular that a lot of the questions that have been planted from book 5 are finally answered. And I think that's just a testament to plotting and planting seeds, because you really had to hope in the long run that this story was going to go that far out that you would be able to answer those questions for your readers and come to the conclusion of why Mab was acting the way she was acting. And what I also think Butcher does so well is weaving in the character narrative with the plot narrative for our characters. So a lot of what we talked about is being a parent, the emotional bonds that you have with your children, and Harry suddenly being able to relate to that in a very deep-rooted way in finding out that he had a child 2 books ago, and how we're laying that out and utilizing that plot to press character development and also like understanding for characters. It's just very clever. Another note, another clever use of language and of names, which is something that I feel like Butcher really puts a strong emphasis on, is Harry's switch from referring to Murphy as Murph or Murphy all the time. There is some times where he is doing exposition of what is happening where he refers to Murph as Murph or Murphy, but when he is speaking directly to her, he is using her first name now. And I think there is a part also where Thomas points that out, and I think it's very important. You know, Harry has kind of accepted this love, this desire to be in a relationship with Karen, and it's reflected in how he refers to her, and I think that's so smart. And I just love that tiny little nod to that. Speaking further along that line, if we can just go down the Murphy train here, because follow with me. I loved every bit that we got, even the parts that really hurt with Murphy in this book. The long game that we were playing with Harry and Murphy is destructive to my core being.
Honey, you've got a big storm coming.
But it is good to have conversations and to say out loud what is complicated about their relationship, because it is a complicated relationship. But I love the scenes of Murphy on the Harley. I thought it was great that she basically was like, I'm not leaving you again, and helps him run away from the hunt and eventually join the hunt. And I love the constant play that Harry and Murphy have of kind of being two sides of the same coin, and the fact that they can connect with one another because they both do have this desire to play hero, this desire to help people, but also have a desire for violence and vengeance that they struggle against and kind of go back and forth with one another through, and also like see themselves in each other in a lot of ways. It's just really cute. And they finally kissed in like a real kiss way, a passionate kiss way. Anyway, so going along further in my little notes here, let's see what else your girl thought, because it has been a couple days since I finished, so I'm trying to keep it together. Wow. Sarissa did not remember that she was Maeve's twin. Also did not remember that Molly was being prepped to be a vessel to take on the winter or summer lady mantle if something were to happen to Lily or Maeve. Did not remember that. It's a twisty twist. And we're about to see how that plays out in Skin Game, because I didn't remember it, but like... And Murphy also talks about it, of like the idea of this becoming another obstacle for her and Harry to be together, because not only are they wizards and Harry is, you know, her mentor, but now they have this connection of Winter Knight and Winter Lady, which Maeve also talked about being like a chemistry that is just like a natural thing to these mantles. So I just really hope that we don't get to the point where Harry finally comes around to Molly, because I really don't want that. I just don't think it's right. I'm not rooting for them. I am so sorry for Molly. I really hope Molly is able to find somebody who fulfills her and makes her happy and really wants her in the way that she wants to be wanted and desired, and she can let go of Harry, because I think she needs to. I would love that character development for her, and I think her actually being the Winter Lady is going to help her. I do. I also did not agree with Mab's assessment that Harry was basically setting Molly up to be obsessed with him. Like, did Harry ignore some things about Molly once she was his apprentice? Like, ignoring the fact that she still held the torch for him? Sure. But do I think that Harry, like, ignored her as a child because he somehow instinctively knew that she had magical prowess, and then like continued to ignore it so he would have to be the one who saved her? I don't agree with that. I don't think that's how the story was set up, and I don't believe that is the correct interpretation. I think Mab is taking that out of context and twisting that around, and then Harry's guilt complex is allowing him to feel that. So I did not agree with that assessment of it. In addition, the parts with Lily in this story I thought were really sad, and it was such an interesting reflection of Molly, because Lily is a person who really did not want to take on any of the mantles that she has, and was thrust into power, and actually quite angry about it. And then she basically gets set up by Maeve to do the wrong thing, and I feel really bad for her. And I feel really bad that the way that it ends for her is her being killed by the one person she trusts. It's pretty terrible. So I was really sad with just the way her arc went, and I am curious to see how this goes with Sarissa and Fix having to deal with the consequences of that, in addition to Harry learning how to deal with Molly in a kind of an inverted position of power, because he has, you know, a bit of subservience to Molly now, so that power dynamic is going to shift a little bit, which will be interesting. Switching gears here, the other thing I noted was Lacuna, who is the little fairy who is working for Axe? I don't know, one of Fix and Lily's old friends, and was working for him to attack Harry, and ended up being in Harry's service. And she's very different from Toot Toot and the other fairies, very health conscious, which is kind of weird. But I like that Toot might have a girlfriend at some point. I like this little dynamic, and I'm looking forward to see where it goes. But again, overall, I enjoyed the book. I love to see Harry hang out at Demon Reach. We're going to find out a little bit more about it. Like I said, I just started Skin Game, so we can talk a little bit more about that. In fact, let's talk a little bit more about Skin Game in our next clip. Hello again. I just stopped this clip in the same place, yes, to talk about Skin Game. So Skin Game is number 15 in the Dresden Files series, and in this book, Mab basically pimps Harry out to Nicodemus. If you remember, the head honcho of the Denarians, and they're trying to steal something from Hades, which is interesting. I'm interested to see how this wraps up, because the only other god that we've really gotten, a like mythological god, is Odin. So we are going to Hades' vault. So I'm intrigued. I have only gotten like 30 pages in, so we're not far at all. But I am looking forward to reading a lot of it on the plane and checking in with you. But in addition to that, we will be starting our countdown to DragonCon starting tomorrow, because starting tomorrow we will have exactly 7 days until DragonCon. It'll be a full week. So we got lots to do. But that's all I have to say. I will see you after we've caught up on Skin Game. See you in a bit. Hello. So we have finished Skin Game, and I have some thoughts for you. Overall, I gave this book 4.5 stars. I almost gave it 4, but I did really enjoy the end, and I really liked the A plot of this. It was like a heist plot where they're trying to break into Hades' vault. And I thought that was really fun. It was fun to see Binder come back. He was funny, and I kind of like that him and Dresden are good. I'm curious to see if he'll come up in some of the later books. And we also brought back Anna Valmont, and it was good to see, like, in the end, them having like a little chat and seeming like they might pair up. So I thought that was fun. It definitely gave that little spy, criminal, Ocean's 11 kind of vibes. I'm saying Ocean's 11 because I saw people in comments say that, but I know there's other movies, maybe The Italian Job kind of situation. So that was super fun. I did not enjoy the new plot twist here, that the pains that Harry had been having in his head, which we kind of ignored for multiple books, if I'm being honest, after Lash died. And like it came up, and then it was like not brought up for like multiple books, and now we found out like last book, I think, in Cold Days, that there was a parasite living in Harry's head. And it turns out that it's not actually a parasite, that it's his child with Lash, so it's like a spiritual entity. And for me, I kind of saw this as a way for Harry to gain a new Bob, since Butters and Bob are a thing now. And I really didn't like this storyline. Really did not enjoy it. I thought it was silly. It was a little too much for me, to be honest. I was like, this is a stretch. Like, it would have made sense that Harry had those headaches because he had brain damage, essentially, that Lash used to save him, and then eventually it would get better, which is what it seemed like. But no, it's a parasite, but then it's not a parasite, and it's actually his other child. I mean, the only redeeming part of that was that Murphy laughed at him when he told her what was going on, but it's just really silly. And then Molly just comes back and is able to deliver the baby into the skull that he built for Bob. that definitely knocked this book down from being 5 stars, because there was a lot of fun things that were going on in this book, especially seeing Murphy playing a larger role as like the B character for the first half, and then having Michael come back and actually go and fight with Harry. I took screenshots of a couple quotes in the book that I found to be really compelling that I enjoyed. All right, so at the very beginning where Harry ends up telling Murphy what's going on, and Murphy says, to Mad's credit, she is sort of asking of you to do what you're good at. And Harry responds, what is that supposed to mean? And Murphy responds, you have a tendency to weasel out of bargains you get yourself into, Harry. You have a history. And then Harry responds, like I shouldn't fight them. And she says, you probably should focus more on not getting into them in the first place, but that's just one humble cop's opinion. So I thought that was really funny. And then when he's still telling her that he wants her to be like his second on this crazy adventure, but he says, I need you. And then it says she considered that gravely and answers, I'll get my gun. So cute. So cute. Talking about Murphy and Harry, that is one thing that I'm both happy and irritated with, and was the other reason that this book just didn't quite land for me. So there is a part in the story where Harry talks to subconscious Harry once again, and he's basically talking about how he's sexually suppressed. Okay, and then he asked Harry this conversation about why him and Carrie aren't together, and he's like, if something real is important to you, man up and go get her. His internal self said, you both could be dead tomorrow. You're heading for the realm of freaking death, for crying out loud. What the hell are you waiting for? And Harry doesn't really give a response, and then he says, let me answer that for you. Molly. And then Harry's like, oh, Molly's a freaking kid. And he's like, she was a freaking kid. She's heading for her late 20s, in case you forgot how to count. She's not all that much younger than you, and the proportional distance is only shrinking, and you like her and you trust her, and the two of you have a ton in common. Go get laid there. And he's like, that's not gonna happen. And he's like, why not? It would be a serious violation of trust. He's like, because she's your apprentice? No, she isn't, not anymore. Hell's bells, man, she's practically your boss when you get right down to it. At the very least, she got promoted past you. And he's like, basically like, I'm not having this conversation. And he says repression and denial. And then it's like, get thee to a therapist. Okay, I want to have like this conversation that I was having with Heather, because I literally sent her multiple texts when I read that, because I continuously find this part of the story so frustrating, of this idea of pushing Molly towards Harry by everybody else except for Harry, even by his subconscious self, and I just don't get it. Here's the thing. If you are not a fan of Harry and Murphy, that's totally fine. I am a big fan of that pairing, mostly because I like the way that their friendship has built up, and they had to grow and learn with one another, learn how to trust one another, because they both have similar problems when it comes to trust. And so they understand each other very well in ways. And I think if they were real people, if they could get past some of the self-doubt and putting themselves above one another, like above themselves, like putting themselves at a higher standard, that they would be able to have a healthy adult relationship, because I feel like they've worked really hard to have a healthy friendship and partnership, and a lot of that is the groundwork for having a healthy romantic relationship. So I think that the relationship built between them could be very good for Harry and Murphy if they allow it to be. So that's why I'm a big fan of it, and I've always liked that pairing. I know some people don't. That's fine. But I would not accept Harry being with Molly, because as Harry points out to his subconscious self, there are a lot of reasons outside of Molly's age that I think this is an issue. And I really come to this point here now that we are you know, nearing the end of the number of books that are available. You know, this one was number 15, so we only have 2 until we are completely caught up in the series. And number 1, I think Molly's character has an interesting journey, and she's making a really big transition, becoming the Winter Lady, and can really come into her own, and is finding this purpose and no longer has to fear the White Council. So she can kind of grow into whatever she's going to be. And I feel like clinging to this childhood love, to like her first love, who has clearly told her no 1,000,001 times, and then eventually getting together with him, would not service her character at all. In addition to that, I don't care that Molly's an adult. She is Harry's, one of his best friends' daughters. Yes, he's known her since she was 12. And it would be really, really weird for them to sleep together. And in addition to that, like, you know, his inner self is like, oh, well, she's no longer your apprentice. She's been promoted above you. But like, she still calls him boss and he still calls her grasshopper. And I was talking with Heather about this and said that I felt like Dresden in Turncoat also mentioned the problematic way of this going on with Morgan and Lucio, because Lucio said that Morgan had held a candle for her a very long time, and even referenced Molly and said that it just never was something that she was going to do. And I think like there are a lot of good reasons for that, and it's just not like, it's not even like being a teacher for a semester. We're talking about like an apprenticeship where she's working with him every day and they are really bonding, and he's really taking this time to try to mentor her. It's very different, and I just don't think it's right. I don't like it. I don't think it is a good call. So I'm gonna leave that there. He meeting Hades was super fun. I loved the dynamic between that. I really thought it was interesting to figure out that basically Mab Marcone and Hades were kind of working together, because essentially Mab needs these holy relics to fight against the outsiders. I had seen some people mention something about like Murphy having the nemesis. I don't really think that's the case. I don't think Murphy is really acting outside of her normal self. I just think she's grown as a character, but I would hate that turn. I also feel like the nemesis is just like, again, another weird thing that I don't know why we needed that villain, because we've got the outsiders doing their things. I mean, I guess to help the outsiders, but it's still kind of strange. I don't know. I'm not quite on board with that. And sometimes I do, like, I think I have realized, because I was reading some Reddit threads and things online, is sometimes we do take some jumps where we have to use exposition of Harry going like putting the dots together. And sometimes I don't think those things are as obvious as it should be to like put those things together. And that's just something I'm noticing with these books as I'm reading them all together, is because sometimes like Harry's like, I figured it out. And I'm like, what the fuck did you figure out? Like half the time you have to have your subconscious tell you things, like the parasite thing. Like that's, you know, we're using things to move the plot around, and sometimes it can be a little, again, the spiritual child, I'm still not okay with. But yeah, so I'm giving this, you know what, I said 4.5, probably like 4.25 to be honest, because again, just like some of these glaring things I found to be a little strange. I did really like how he tied in Nicodemus killing his daughter, and just like really staying on like the daughter themes for some reason. Those connections is interesting that it's thread throughout here. I did say that I had a couple other quotes. So talking about just like Michael, of Harry's interaction with Michael, and the camera's about to die. So where he ends up like going to Michael's house and he says, I think I need your help. I think I'm lost. And he's like crying. And Michael tells him to come in. Thought that was so sweet. I got a little teary eyed for that. And like Michael just basically calling Harry arrogant and telling him that you think everything, like there's so much responsibility that you put on your shoulders that everything kind of rolls around you with just like a form of arrogance. I thought that was a great line. And I appreciated having Michael back in the picture and doing some great things. And then of course, before the battery dies, I'm happy that Harry and Murphy like seem to be moving in the right direction at the end. Like making out like in the hospital and being silly. It was pretty cute. So that is my thoughts on Skin Game. We are gonna hop right into Peace Talks probably today or tomorrow morning because we only have 3 days left till the 29th. So we're kind of right on schedule, and Peace Talks is a little shorter. So looking forward to see what happens with this one, and I will check in with you then. Hello. I figured I had finished up on some prep for DragonCon, and so I thought I would give you an update because we have successfully completed the 16th book in the Dresden Files, and that is Peace Talks. The book is downstairs. But I do have the dust jacket that I can hold up here. So we'll do that. I kind of realized as I was reading this that it seems to me, especially considering when these books came out, that Peace Talks and Battleground may have been one book, and then just it took so long to establish all the things that were going on in this book that I feel like Butcher decided to make it two. So I kind of feel like these two stories really connect. So I'm gonna go ahead and include Battleground in this vlog as well. So I wanted to put that out there because I've just started it. But literally Battleground picks up right after Peace Talks, like, which is very uncommon for a Dresden File book. So we usually skip ahead a little while and have to re-establish some things about the world and where our characters have been since we've last checked in. For Peace Talks, it's a pretty short time jump from Skin Game to Peace Talks, about like 3 months or so, I believe, because Murphy is still not necessarily bedridden, but she just went through surgery. You know, she's has some pretty bad injuries from Nicodemus snapping out her shoulder and then her kneecap as well, tearing her ACL. So she is still recovering. We officially have Harry saying that Murphy is his girlfriend. And they're so cute, and I'm so happy about it. I am so happy about it. They are the same together, but now they're just together, which is great. And I appreciate that Butcher did not allow Murphy's injuries to keep her from being a part of this story in a real way, because that's not who Murphy is. And so I appreciate that he is respecting his characters. Overall, the handling so far of Murphy and Dresden's relationship and Peace Talks, I'm happy with it. I am pleased with it. They love one another. It's super sweet. And I was feeling all mushy-gushy about it, and I'm so happy, I'm so pleased. Okay, moving on. We'll get it out of the way. I won't spend as much time on that as I could. But I will say also, because I kind of mentioned this, I was talking about this in another vlog, not a spoiler one, but the reason why I think Battleground and Peace Talks may have originally started as one story is because Peace Talks to me feels like the first like 30 to 40% of any Dresden Files book. We're establishing what the big bad is going to be. We're figuring out what Harry is going to have to do. We're catching up with all the characters that are going to be important in this book. We're introducing any new characters that we need to get to know. And we're just kind of setting out where all the puzzle pieces are and what their current relationships are. And that's really what Peace Talks is for the majority. Like we're just getting to shit hitting the fan as Peace Talks ends. I mean, shit has hit the fan, but not in the big flashy way that I feel like Butcher is known for in the Dresden Files. So I really do think that is something Butcher really excels at, is writing very compelling fight scenes, compelling battles. And we didn't really get a lot of that in Peace Talks because most of Peace Talks was setting up for what I'm assuming we're gonna go through in Battleground, which is going to be one big fucking battle. But what I really did love about this, and what I personally I think enjoy the most from the Dresden Files is the conversations that we're having in there, the relationships that we're building. I absolutely am so happy for Butters. I'm hoping he has a successful poly relationship with Andy and Marcy. I think that's what they're working towards. I don't know if it's just sexual relationship or they're having relationship. Rooting for them, hoping it's healthy, hoping they're happy, hope they enjoy. Butters is living his best life. I think Butters becoming a Knight of the Cross, which I don't know if I mentioned happened in Skin Game, but I think it was such a fun twist because we kept hinting that Murphy was going to be a Knight of the Cross, and Murphy kept saying, no, 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 thank you. No, 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 not me, not me. So to see it turn out to be Butters as somebody taking up one of the swords, I thought was so, it was such a good switch on the audience and well-deserved. I think we saw a growth in Butters, and we've seen him come from being, you know, somebody who considered himself a coward to somebody who's really taken his time with Harry and things that have been going on in the world and has grown and is now a Knight of the Cross. And I loved the scene between him and Sonya fighting and them figuring out that his sword now can't harm people, that it's more like a metaphysical sword than a physical sword. Cool. The spirit child is in there for a second, which brings us to probably the most fun relationship I saw in this book and was so happy to see was Dresden having a healthy relationship with his daughter Maggie and them, you know, trying to figure it out and trying to live a life together. I am so pleased because again, like the last, I gave 5 stars to Changes, Ghost Story, and Cold Days. I absolutely love those books. I think they're great. They're also very dark. And to have in here, what I really loved about this was to see Harry having full fleshed out relationships and them being fairly healthy overall. You know, we see him, we'll get to the one that he needs to work on, that needs work. Not that Butcher wrote it wrong, but that the characters need to go through some good therapy to help out with some of these traumas that we're dealing with. But I think it's great that Harry's trying to be a dad. I love seeing him step into this role and trying to figure out what that's going to look like for him. I'm glad that Butcher is exploring this, and I think it's something worthwhile to bring into a book like this, to give him motivation, but also to make Maggie her own person. And I think she's adorable. I love that her and Mouse are so close. I really was sad that we got a little bit of Thomas and Harry, finding out Thomas was gonna be a dad and him going to his younger brother who has a child for advice. And just like going from that to then having Thomas, which we still don't know why, go and try to assassinate the Schwarzwald's leader entry in the first third of this book and basically be beaten to a pulp, and then to find out that he was beaten so bad that his demon is essentially consuming his life force. And now, presumably until at least the next book, Thomas is going to be out of commission, because at the end of this book, Harry takes Thomas to Demon Reach and locks him up in the jail to save him, which brings back the very beginning of Skin Game and kind of brings it full circle of why we were talking about these monsters, in addition to the fact that supposedly the plan is for Harry to take that Titan lady and lock her up in Demon Reach. We'll see. So we'll see if he's able to trap her. I am glad Lara is back. I really like Lara. I like that Harry and Murphy like Lara. I mean, if we're going with Polly, I would be okay with that. Also, the Valkyrie joke I thought was funny. But I really like Lara. I think she is such an interesting character. As is very prominent in this series, we're talking a lot about family and Lara's commitment to Thomas and her love for Thomas, and also was viewing Thomas as her own child because she took care of him when he was younger. It was really sweet. I enjoy every book that she's in. I do think she's a compelling character. I think I've talked about this before. Seeing Molly do a little bit more of Winter Lady stuff was fun. I think I like the direction that Butcher is taking Molly. As I mentioned, I want to see her grow into her own person, and I do think it is more compelling to see her grapple with her new role as the Winter Lady and how she's going to approach it with her parents and how she's going to work through that and do her best while her family's still around. I really love that. I think it's far more compelling than this weird love interest bullshit that we've been doing for a while. So loving that, enjoying that a lot. But let's talk about Ebenezer, because I feel like that was the most heart-wrenching, sad thing to see in the book, was Harry and Ebenezer kind of having a fallout, because Harry is kept from Ebenezer that Thomas is his other grandson, as long as Harry has known that as long as Harry's known that Thomas was his brother, but then also when he found out that Ebenezer was his grandfather, still keeping it from him. And we're getting the idea that Ebenezer has some deep-seated hate towards the White Court for reasons that we don't really know. But he keeps comparing it to why he feels the way he does about the ghouls. Like, some shit went down at some point in Ebenezer's life, and so he really, really hates them. And he is having a hard time understanding why Harry is so hell-bent on helping Thomas and just thinking that he's a monster. So at the end of this book, we're getting this battle between Harry and Ebenezer as Harry's trying to help Lara, her guard, who's one of the Valkyries, whose name I can't remember right now. He keeps calling her the redhead, and Murphy are on the boat, on the water beetle, trying to get there, and he is trying to stop them. And obviously, there is a part of Ebenezer that's doing this to protect Harry, doesn't want to see Harry get thrown out of the council, wants to make sure that he's safe, because he does love Harry. But then there's also this hate that's not letting him see past what is in front of him and understand Harry's perspective. And then to see him truly lose his shit when Harry tells him that Thomas is his other grandson. They said a lot of hurtful things. They definitely did. And I really think it's interesting to see Murphy talk to Harry again about family. She coaches him a lot on it. She is trying to be empathetic, but also be upfront with him and tell him that he, is going to have to reach out to him eventually. Not today, not before the big fight, not when all this shit is going down, but he'd have to have a talk with him and understand that his grandfather is human and that he's had 300 probably years of shit built up that he is trying to deal with, just like Harry is trying to deal with the traumas that he's went through in just the 40 years of his life. So it was hard because I'm really close with my grandparents, my Nana, and I can understand, especially from Harry, he's looked up to Ebenezer for so long, and to feel like his family that he's, working so hard to cling to, because Harry didn't grow up with family, to see that maybe this will never be something that he can repair and to possibly have to make a choice is really tough. And I really did enjoy that part of the book. I gave it 4 stars just because, like I said, I didn't feel like it was a complete story, just the start of it. So honestly, I probably should rate Peace Talks and Battleground together because I feel like they're going to be one complete story. But I really enjoyed this overall. I don't have that much more to say about it. Like, there was plot things, like we had some parties, we had a cool ring that Molly made, which was pretty crazy, and I at first was like, what the fuck? How did Ebenezer just blow? How does Harry bounce back from having like a literal star blowing through his chest to realize that that ring that he dropped was actually going to be like an illusion? That was pretty crazy, but makes sense why he asked Molly, because she's so great at it. Oh, speaking of Molly, oh no, that's in the next book. See, I'm already getting confused because they literally pick up right after one another. But that are my thoughts on that. But that's really all I have to say about Peace Talks. I had a good time. loving the relationships. Hoping we get, you know, after Battleground, hoping we get to see more of Maggie and get a little more of that. She's off with the Carpenters. Things are gonna blow up. So I'm sure I'll have a lot to talk to you about the last book in this challenge for now, since it's gonna be the last one that's out. We're 2 days away from DragonCon, so we are cutting it close, but I always knew we would. So I will check back with you once I have something to say about Battleground. Hi friends, I am officially back from DragonCon, so forgive my voice. I'm recovering it a little bit after speaking over large crowds for the entire weekend, not sleeping much, and you know, just generally not taking care of my body. But I wanted to update you now because I don't know how long I want to talk about Battleground, because I'm actually still quite upset about the book. So I just want to say, like, I know I put in the titles that these are spoiler vlogs, but like big spoilers here. So if you haven't read Battleground, please don't watch this video. Please don't watch it. Just come back after you finished it and you can let me know what you think. This book, like I said when I was talking about Peace Talks, really seems to me like Peace Talks and Battleground are the same story. Just, it's a long story. I have got 9 minutes of Gavin sprints and Pumpkin decides she wants to use the litter box right now. With that in mind, I'm actually not gonna rate Battleground, at least not for a while. I don't know, I think I just like, I don't know how to rate it, so I'm not going to. Because like because it is to me like really the continuation of the same story. I don't feel like I can compare it to the other books because the other books were complete in their stories, where I mean, I guess Peace Talks was complete but not really. So I think that's kind of where I stand. I actually finished, so just going into the reread challenge, or this just reading challenge, my goal was to finish all of the books by August 29th. I was about 40-something% of the way through Battleground when I got to DragonCon. And so I actually finished it yesterday at the end of DragonCon, which was probably not a great idea because I am the person who doesn't do well with endings. Like ending of a trip, ending of a book, ending of a show. That's always really hard for me. Like, I do grieve an ending. Even though I look forward to beginnings and I enjoy going through the process, like, I do grieve endings, especially for things that I've been invested in for a good amount of time. So just for an example, the last Harry Potter book, when it came out, I got it on one of those midnight releases, but I was in high school. I was a senior, so it would have been like 2009, I think, or 2008. No, it maybe came out when I was a junior, 2008, something like that. And I had the book in the back of my car for over a year because I just wasn't ready to let it go. So I do have trouble with endings. And so, I mean, this isn't an ending, but it is an ending, which we'll get into. But I struggle with that. It's always, I do have that, like, you know, some people get like travel lows after they travel and stuff, and I'm definitely somebody who does. I think it has a lot to do with stuff that goes on in my brain and the chemical imbalances and all that good stuff. But yeah, so I was having a rough day yesterday, especially because it was also on my period, so emotional because DragonCon was ending and I had put so much time and effort and planning into it, and so that's always hard. And then we'll just get the elephant out of the room here, because this is probably what anybody who's made their way through the Dresden Files really latched onto in Battleground is he killed Murphy. Murphy died. And okay, I shouldn't say he killed Murphy. I mean, yes, technically, did Jim Butcher kill Murphy? Yes, he is the author. But like, I mean, honestly, he's the writer and you have to make conflict and you have to make choices with your characters. And like, I'm not here to really like be actually angry with Jim Butcher about the choices. I'm sure that at least from, so I saw him on 2 panels, and at least from any reactions he's had to any kind of alluding to the death of Murphy, it seems like it pained him just as much as it pains the rest of us, which I'm sure it did, because you spend so much time in those characters in 17 books. I feel like that has to be really hard. I did meet him and I did tell him that I was mad at him currently, and I mean, stages of grief, I am a little, I mean, I was a little upset that I waited so long for Harry and Murphy to get together and to have the opportunity to be happy with one another and for it to be wrenched away so quickly. Yeah, a little bit. But, you know, it's a story must go on, and I don't know if it had to happen. You know, sometimes I feel like a character's death is very necessary for a story to move forward, or it just makes sense in that character's journey. I don't know if that's the case or not yet. I feel like I probably won't be able to weigh in on that until reading the next book, which Butcher said that he was pretty close to finishing. I will say, like, I don't usually get super emotional for character deaths in books, but this one has really sent me for a tailspin. I think especially because I read these so quickly in such quick succession, and I have so much emotions attached to these books since I've been invested in them for so long, that it was a particularly difficult character death. Like, I feel very emotional about it, and I'm sure plenty of other people who've read the Dresden Files that are as invested in it feel the same way, because, you know, Murphy was such a important character, and her dynamic with Harry, I feel like, is so good that it is definitely going to be something that is a apparent hole in the story. And I know Butcher alluded to the fact that he is, and I believe him, because he does a really great job of not allowing big moments to just suddenly be breezed over because plot has to happen. He really allows his characters to feel their emotions and to try to work through them. So I believe him when he says that the next book that's coming out, a lot of it is going to be about Harry dealing with this grief. But it was hard, and I was mad. I was very mad when it first happened, because, as you know, if you've watched all these vlogs, I've always been a big Murphy Harry stand, but beyond that, like, Murphy is probably my favorite character in the Dresden Files. I think realistically, it's Harry, Murphy, and Butters are my 3 favorite characters in the Dresden Files. So it was devastating, honestly. And just the way she went, I mean, he tried to, so like in the end, I was kind of clinging to hope that she'd come back as a Valkyrie, as I read some things on Reddit, the previous book, where I kind of spoiled some things for myself, but didn't really think about it. I mean, for Murphy to become a Valkyrie, she'd have to die, but basically Butcher kind of nixed that and said it had Guard tell Harry at the end of the book that you can't become a Valkyrie until no one remembers you anymore. So realistically, Harry is never going to see Murphy again. And Murphy won't be back for a while, because she's known by a lot of supernatural beings. So I don't know if her memory will fade. Maybe it will eventually, but so she gets a long rest. She gets to rest and enjoy her time in Valhalla. So that's good. I don't know if her being killed by Rudolph was my favorite way for Murphy to go. I was pretty pissed off about that, you know, a scared, trigger-happy fucktard shot her in the neck and she died. But I guess it kind of is a reflection of the chaos that is probably to come when it comes to mortals dealing with supernatural things and people putting themselves in the line of fire. I mean, she did take out a giant before she died, so that's cool, with a bazooka. I mean, very Murphy style. But yeah, that was hard. It was... I feel really sad for Harry. I do. Oh, I don't want to cry. Oh, I hate endings so much. It feels so silly to cry over a fictional character. Oh, I feel so silly. But a testament to Jim Butcher, who really knows how to sock it to you, right? Anywho, so obviously that's the thing that I took most away from the book. One second. I never really get into the battles because as exciting as they are, like, they're fun to read. I don't know if they're great to talk about because I don't ever feel like they're the big takeaway from the books anyways. I think Butcher does a really good job of keeping his themes relatable. But I loved, the things I did love seeing the battle were the Mab fight scene was super cool. It was cool to see Mab in action like that. I really like the character of Mab. We've gotten, I will say too, like, I do think this book dropped a lot of lore about Mab that we're gonna have to dig deeper into in some of the next books. First off, I said I was gonna talk about the battle scenes for a second, but well, while we're talking about Mab, is Mab related to Harry? Like, not because of Winter, but like legit related to Harry, because there was a scene right before really shit hit the fan, and Mab almost called Ebenezer her brother. Like, he specifically had Harry cut her off, which I'm like, okay. But Mab was certainly gonna call Ebenezer her brother, and we did learn that Mab was once human, which makes sense now because Molly was once human, so, you know, clearly we're getting an idea. Well, I mean, I guess Sarissa was technically, but she was a changeling. Both Sarissa and Maeve were changelings. But either way, Mab was a wizard. I'm almost wondering if she was Morgana, because I don't know. I almost wonder if she was. Are they related to Merlin? There are Harry's past. I mean, we're gonna learn more about these Starborns. We keep bringing it up. I feel like we will get more lore drops. And hopefully, oh, and Listen Swin is supposed to tell him what a Starborn is in giving him 6 months. So that will probably be at the beginning of the book. So very interested in some of this stuff. But yeah, the Mab battle scene was super cool. She's a really fun character. Like, I do really like Mab. So I am glad that she's still around. I mean, obviously she needed to be, because otherwise Harry would have had to kill Molly because she wasn't ready to be Mab. She wasn't ready to be the queen. It was fun to see like the Avengers assemble to fight the Titan, but Ethnu to fight the Titan. Like, all the battle scenes are great. Like, Butcher does a great job in battle scenes. I just don't know if, like, I don't like to spend a lot of time talking about them because they're really like an ends to a means. So, like, where we get to after the story to me is more interesting to discuss. It's more interesting to read battle scenes, but not to discuss them all the time. I was really in the mood for a smoothie today. I had one yesterday and now I'm on a kick. Plus, you know, with my throat, I'm trying to rehydrate, get some liquids back in my body. So yeah, want to learn more about Mab, Ebenezer. I really think they're related to Merlin. No, they wouldn't have done time frame. I guess she could have been Morgana, but like they're both from like the same area. Pretty sure she's his brother. So that means she's related to Harry. I have questions. We'll skip a little ahead to Justine. I know that was a big reveal. I think like what was going on in the book was almost like too much for me, that I was just, my brain was like, okay. Justine has Nemesis in her brain. She is Nemesis? Is she's not even herself anymore? She sent Thomas to do a whole bunch of shit. Apparently she's still alive, but the Nemesis plotline is still a hard one for me. So maybe that's why, is I'm just like, okay, oh yeah, we found out Nemesis is actually he who walks beside. Yeah, he who walks beside. Which I guess makes sense, right? Because like he who walks behind always comes from behind you. He who walks in front of you and then he walks beside you is like in your head. So it makes a little more sense now that we're just saying like Nemesis is an outsider that infects people and like walks along with them. So that makes sense. So we'll see where that goes. Butcher has talked about it's on his website if you want to check it out, but you know, where the next couple books are going. So it's, I think he said, I forgot, I should confirm with Heather, but he said that it's gonna be 23, I think officially now. So this was book 17. So that means we have 6 more. All right, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 6 more. I can math. So 6 more books, and I guess the last 3 are gonna be like an apocalyptic trilogy, which I guess makes sense of where we're going. So I can see maybe finding Justine will be a later kind of event and somehow saving Thomas at some point. I am curious why. I will be curious to see how Butcher weaves Thomas back into the story eventually. I hope that he doesn't just remain that way, but maybe he will remain that way until the end of the books. Will say the other battle scene that I really enjoyed and some of the conversations kind of giving us a little more lore drop were with the Knights of the Cross, or Knights of the Sword, Knights of the Cross, and both, right? Having the being speak out of Butters was interesting because clearly maybe a Titan? I don't know. Like, I have some questions about that. So it was interesting just to see like how he's weaving, you know, the Christian God into this pantheon of gods and like how they kind of correlate. So I am very curious about that and want to see how he kind of works that in a little deeper. I think it is cool that Philokius, the being broken part, like how that worked in and how everything was, you know, meant to happen the way that happened. So that was a cool battle scene. I love Sonya. Whenever I've seen Sonya's in, it's fun. I'm glad he didn't die. And I am glad, you know, it was a really sweet scene between those two and Harry as they were trying to help him with his initial reaction to Murphy's death, which was a really rough scene, but it was a great scene to see them work through and help him kind of refocus, since there was no time to grieve at that point. The other plot points that I want to talk about briefly is really just the like there's the two, right? So well, kind of three. So one, Harry being kicked out of the White Council, very interesting. Very I feel like it makes sense in a way, because we're kind of at another restart in the series, and I think him kind of starting back at one with the White Council, being back in his building, going to establish his home in there as long as it takes, and setting himself up as the Wizard of Chicago again is, I think it was the journey Harry had to go through to get back to knowing who he was. And I feel like we've been doing that a lot, of Harry just trying to figure out who he was, allowing himself to feel and love and be human still, and going through that journey to get to this new point that we'll be at in the story. Him trying to build a home, him trying to reset his life after such a great loss, and just trying to do what he's always done, protect the people of Chicago and the people of the world, and stand up to larger powers and make sense. And then also, you know, have his family. So he's lost family, but he's gained family. And Butcher, please don't kill Maggie. I don't think I could handle that. So let's not do that, okay? So I am looking forward to see where, I think it's called 12 months. Let me see. Oh, well, before I get into wrapping this up, obviously the other big plot drop in here, and I was talking to Heather about this last night while I was at the airport. I kind of had an inkling about this. I don't know really why, but I kind of had an inkling about Lara for a while. Like, she clearly likes Harry. We've mentioned that other people say like she likes Harry. I don't know if it's in a romantic way of like a Murphy situation, more of like a I think we would be good partners kind of situation, because I don't know. But I mean, Lara and Harry are more alike than they first come off in a lot of ways, but Lara's a lot more calculative than Harry is, but at the same time, deeply she has like some deep-rooted love for her family, and I think that's something that her and Harry always see eye to eye on. But I was not shocked about the marriage, the arranged marriage of Harry and Lara. Now, timing-wise, I am with Harry and Molly and Lara that like Mab was really pushing things up. He just lost, you know, possibly the love of his life. I mean, definitely one of the loves of his life. The camera told me I'd recorded too long. So literally just lost Murphy. Like, time to heal. But I wasn't shocked by the news. There was just something in my gut about Lara that there was always like something looming there. And I think maybe the thing that I felt like clicked it for me of like, oh, I see kind of how he was laying a couple laying some bricks on this, if you will, on the foundation of this in peace talks, with them connecting over Thomas and just really showing deep down who Lara is and where her allegiances lie. And then having Murphy talk about how she likes Lara despite her being how she is. I don't know, it didn't shock me. I wasn't surprised. I was like, okay, I could see this. And we finally shut the door on Molly. Thank God. So I'm here for it. I mean, I'm also just here for them having kind of an alliance. Like, I don't know. I'm here for it. I don't know if they could be happy together, but I'm here for the journey. I think it'll be interesting. I think I said a couple books ago that I really like Lara. Is she Murphy? No. But, you know, in the direction that these books are going, is she definitely a really good partner to have on your side? And they obviously have a common goal to work towards with Thomas. So I could see where maybe it's not even a romantic marriage, maybe it is just more of a better working relationship between the two of them would be fine. I don't know how that would work because obviously we've already experienced the troubles that Justine and Thomas had. If they were to actually fall in love, I mean, obviously they're very attracted to each other, but she can't even sleep with him right now because the last person he slept with was Murphy. So like romantically, I have a lot of questions, but like storyline, plot-wise, I wasn't surprised, and I think it'll be an interesting journey for sure. But yeah, those are really my thoughts on Battleground. Like I said, I'm not going to rate it. Obviously, I got very emotional about it. I don't know if that makes a book of 5 stars. I have very conflicted thoughts and feelings and emotions on it right now. So we'll just wait. Maybe one day I'll rate it, or maybe not. But yeah, I am looking forward to reading the newest book, which is 12 months, which makes sense because Harry is given 12 months to work through his grief, to try to figure out a way to get around this arranged marriage, to build his life again. And so I'm assuming that the 12 months, it's gonna be more of that. And I think it's good. I think it'll be cathartic for all of us who love these characters and love these books to work through the grief of losing a character like Murphy with Harry and really give that really sad, huge hole that we're gonna be missing in the Dresden Files. Give us all the chance to reckon with it. So I think it's a smart move. I'm interested to see how Butcher's gonna do it. I think he's gonna do it well. I really think that's a strong suit of his. So I am looking forward to reading the book when it comes out. But that's it. We did it. We have officially finished the Dresden Files reread challenge. I will definitely do another spoiler vlog when 12 months finally comes out. But in the meantime, we're done. There's no more of these vlogs for right now. So I am looking forward to having a little bit more room in my TBR to read some other books. But I loved revisiting the Dresden Files series. I loved meeting a bunch of old friends. And I've loved sharing the journey with you. To close this vlog out here, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for sticking through this with me. If you feel the same way about the Dresden Files or want someone to talk with about them, let me know in the comments. We could always connect on Discord. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up. If you want to stick around for more bookish and nerdish content, I upload every Sundays and most Wednesdays. And in the meantime, I hope you read a good book. I hope you find some joy. Most importantly, I hope you do something. Woo! You okay? Oh, you tripped. Pumpkin did make her jump. Oh no, what happened? Oh. And most importantly, I hope you do something to make the world a better place. And I will see you in my next one. Bye.